We've talked about all the volumes of 3D shapes except for a sphere. So we're going to see where does the volume of a sphere, what is the formula, where does that come from? And we're going to use other shapes we've talked about to kind of get there. So in class today, we're going to figure out how can we get the volume of a sphere using a cone and a cylinder. In class, this is how we did it. Just want you to see. So we tried to guess what if we have the same circle, same base, and same height, how much of this cylinder would be filled by the cone? And most students will guess a half at first. Think, oh, maybe it'll be half, right? It's definitely less, but it's not a half, it's actually a third of the cylinder. So a cone will fill up 1/3 of the cylinder. And that makes sense because we've used that formula before, 1/3 pi r squared for the cylinder times height. So that's where the 1/3 comes from a cone and a cylinder. We've talked about that before. All right, now let's look at this. We have not talked about this before. So there's 1/3 of the cylinder. So how much is the hemisphere? So it fills the rest of the cylinder. So if I zoom in here, 1/3 was from the cone, 2/3 was from the hemisphere. So looking at these two shapes, there's going to be a 2/3 for a hemisphere. It's 2/3 of the cylinder. Just to show you what I mean by that. So let's say the volume of the cylinder was 27 pi. Well, a cone is 1/3. So 1/3 of 27 is 9 pi, right? And then a hemisphere would be 2/3 of it. So still less than the cylinder, but not 9. It's going to be 2/3. And 2/3 of 27 is 18. So 18 pi. All right, so let's put this together. Let's try to figure out the formula for the volume of a sphere. All right, so if we had a cylinder, we know our formula is pi r squared times height. So we just figured out, okay, the volume's got to be 2/3 pi r squared times height. Now here's the tricky part. What is the height of this hemisphere? Because they didn't give it to me. But it's from the center to the edge. It's another radius. So it's pi r squared times the radius, because that's the height. But if we do r squared times radius, that's r cubed. So we write this as pi r cubed. So it's 2/3 because it's less than the cylinder. And it's r cubed because this is the radius for r squared for the area of the circle, just like in the cylinder. And then the height of this hemisphere is the radius, right, from the center to the edge. So that's where this hemisphere formula comes from. We're almost there. Now, last part. What is the volume of a full sphere? Well, if this is 2/3 pi r cubed for a hemisphere, I just need 2 of them together or multiply it by 2, right? So just times 2. I need 2 of them to get a sphere. One for the bottom, one for the top. 2 times 2 is 4 divided by 3 pi r cubed. Now, do you need to know where this formula comes from? No. But it is cool to see, like, this crazy looking formula does come from something. But you just need to know the volume formula for a sphere is 4/3 pi r cubed. Once you know that, it's pretty easy. We just use this formula to find the volume of a sphere. So big things to remember, we got 4/3, and then the radius is cubed because radius squared would give us the area of the circle, and then times the height, which is really another radius. That's why it's cubed. So I'm going to show a quick example of how to do the volume of a sphere or a hemisphere. So this one's a hemisphere. So I'm going to do volume equals 4/3 pi r to the power of 3. Make sure that's not in the denominator. Pi r to the power of 3. Now, a couple things to notice. This isn't a full sphere. It's half a sphere. So I'm going to do 1/2 times 4/3. Right? It's half of it. We also know that half of 4/3 would be 2/3. So I could simplify that now, but I'll just leave it like this. Now, the other thing to notice, the radius is not 42. Right? That's the diameter. The radius is 26. It's half the diameter there. So I'm going to fill in this formula. I'm just going to copy and paste it just to save some time here. And the radius is just 26. If I just put this all in the calculator, I would get my answer. I'm going to copy and paste it into that calculator. Save me some time. 36,811.